Hello, everybody. This video is for people who are in the position that I was last year, well, before I adopted this baby and this guy. If you're thinking about adopting a cat or you have just adopted and you're like waiting it out for the time where you can pick them up and you're trying to figure out everything you can, you're a new pet owner, this video is for you. I watched a lot of these videos on YouTube before I adopted my cats. I really wanted to know what to expect. I wanted to know what other people's experience was like. I was just like in a cat fever. A lot of those videos were like vlogs, and those are so fun in their own right. I loved watching those. I felt so happy and excited to have that be me very soon. But I also was like frantically reading books about cats and trying to learn all that I could learn, and I still feel like I was confused. So this is kind of like I've had these guys for around a year now. I have learned so much about cats and about these cats specifically, so this might not apply to all cats, but I know a lot. So if you've never had a pet before, or if you've never had a cat before and you're kind of worried about how that would go, I have put together a list of things I want to share with new cat owners that can hopefully help. So my plan is first to talk about the essentials, like things you should have before you have your cat, or if you've already brought your cat home but you're not sure like if you're missing something, things that you should have, essentials, and then I also have a little side list of loves, which are things I really recommend, but they're not essential. Then the next thing I'll talk about is the monthly costs, because I think people underestimate the cost of having a pet. It is like a new addition to your family, and I'm sure kids are a lot more expensive. I wouldn't know, and hopefully, inshallah, I won't know for a while. But cats are also pretty expensive. And it could be nothing for you depending on your financial status, or it could be a lot. And I don't want anyone to suddenly feel overwhelmed, because I know at times I definitely felt overwhelmed by the cost until I could adjust and figure out what I needed and what I didn't need, and what costs I wanted to cut out or keep. So I think it's really important to be aware of the costs and prepared for the costs. So I will talk about that too. And then I'll talk about my tips, like just a few small, like general tips I've learned throughout my experience with those guys over there. And in the end, I will just talk about my experience with them. If I would recommend getting a cat, spoiler, I do. So if any of that is interesting to you and you think that you are looking for someone to tell you these things, then keep watching. Okay, starting off with the essentials, I'm just going to go down the list and I will explain it to you as I go if there's anything that needs further explanation. So, some of the essentials include bowls. Now, this can be one bowl or two bowl. One bowl if you just want to feed them from that bowl, and I would recommend the second bowl if you wanted to give them water from a bowl and not from a fountain, which I will get to. Now, with a bowl, obviously you also need food. I highly, highly, highly recommend wet food. I am not the most informed about this topic, so you can look up Jackson Galaxy. He does a whole series comparing wet to dry food, but basically, dry food, although it is cheaper, wet food is much more nutritious and much better for the cats in the long term. I also read a lot of anecdotal stories about people who gave their cat dry food and they ended up having to pay these huge vet bills because they developed conditions. Now, I don't know if that's enough to prove causation, but there did seem to be a correlation. So I try to stay away from dry food. It is more convenient, it is quicker, it is cheaper, but I prefer wet food. You can learn more about that, like I said, Jackson Galaxy. There's a lot of other people who talk about that stuff, not me. In any case, you will need some food. The next things you'll need are the litter and the litter box. So there's a lot of types of cat litter, and if you don't know, litter is the thing that goes into the litter box, which they end up using the bathroom in. It's for to say it in a nicer way. So cats naturally have a tendency to bury their bathroom activities, shall we say, and for them, evolutionarily, if that's a word, they are used to burying in sand or sandy like areas. My experience, the sandy litter, the grainy litter, the gravelly litter, they like that a lot more. But I would still recommend switching to, if you can, pine litter, because pine litter is a lot less mess when they get out of the litter box and they have the sand on their paws. Even if you have a mat underneath, sometimes it still sticks to their paws and then they distribute it throughout the day as they're walking, like it just rubs off, you know, or falls off their paws. And I hate getting the feeling that sandy litter under my blanket in bed. I hate it, but the other reverse side is my cats have been very scared sometimes, or my cats do angry poop sometimes, but they have done that when I've had pine litter, and they have never, ever, ever gone outside the litter box when there is sandy litter. So take that as you will, but you will need the litter box and the litter. There are also a lot of shapes of litter boxes. You know, there's just a plain one they can get into, which is much better if they're younger, but there are the other kinds. There's the closed kind, there's the kind that's kind of like a dome. But there's a lot of litter boxes you can look into. Some of them prevent tracking litter out of the litter box into your house once they use the bathroom. That's all, which is nice. But they do get more expensive, as you can imagine, when the design gets more intricate. So I always just use the plain litter box. I might upgrade, but yeah. With that, remember you will need a litter scoop. That's what you will use to clean up their litter box. And I will say you don't need to clean up their pee, especially if you're using pine litter. Like, it just will break down the litter eventually, and you'll just have to change it out. But if you're using the sandy clumpy litter, then it's really easy. Like, you can just scoop that out too, like as you would with little poop particles. The next thing you'll need is a nail cutter. So these are the ones that are cat nail cutters. They're around this size, and this is how big the hook is. You really don't want the bigger ones, because those are for dogs because they have much longer nails. Cats have much smaller nails, and you really don't want to risk it by getting, their nails are very sensitive. You have to cut their nails very focused and sure not to cut a part where there is a nerve. So it's much better to have precision with a smaller little tool. And another reason that you need a nail cutter is because it costs a lot of money to get their nails cut all the time, and they do grow out. So I would recommend having it from the beginning at home, because I will go into this, but you want to start them young. The next essential thing I think you should get are treats. Now, you might think treats are for an occasion or to celebrate, so they're not essential, but when you are first getting them into your house, they're probably scared and worried. They don't know where they are, they don't know who you are, they don't know where to go, but cats love to eat. So if you have their treats and you give them a treat, it'll just make them feel, it'll make them feel more welcome. Probably will make them feel safer. It'll make them be more comfortable around you. It'll make them love you more, which is what you want. So you should definitely have treats to encourage them to be with you, to encourage them to be happy, and to encourage them to do things if you want to, which I will also get to later. The next thing you'll need is a carrier. A carrier, if you can tell by the name, is what you will carry them in when you're traveling, or if you're taking them from the vet to home, or home to the vet, or if you just want to take them out on a drive because you don't want them loose in the car. Although I do know some cats who behave very well in the car loose, but you don't want them loose in the car. It's very dangerous for you and them if they're distracting you. And for cats who are newly adopted, or cats who are changing homes, being in the car can be very scary to them, and you don't want them to be panicking inside that large space. It's better for them and their health too, for them to be in a closed space. There's a lot of kinds of carriers, a lot of sizes of carriers. I personally from the start got one of those like mesh carriers. It's actually over here. Yep, this is my carrier. I've had it from the start. It's one of those mesh carriers. There's like a blanket underneath. I have one of my old shirts in there so that they can know that they should feel safe in there, because it has my scent. I would recommend that, but I would recommend buying bigger. I got my carrier when I only was thinking of getting one of these little guys, and now that I have two, I still can put them both in there, but they've gotten a lot bigger in this year, alhamdulillah, so I kind of do think I need to upgrade. So in that sense, they're going to grow. They're not going to get smaller. I would recommend going up in size if you can. A lot of the times, if you're adopting or if you're buying a cat, they might throw in a little cardboard box for you to take them home in. That's fine too, but at some point you will need your own carrier. The next thing you'll need is cat toothbrush and toothpaste. I got this on Amazon. That is for, I'm sorry. But I got this on Amazon. You can get like a pack. You need to get them because cats also get cavities, and you want them, which I will talk about earlier, to be used to you brushing their teeth because you don't want to pay a vet bill later. So you need to get a toothbrush. That's really all you need, in my opinion. You don't need to go bigger than that. My cats are over there right now because they're like so confused by moving their carrier around, but it's okay, guys, we're not going anywhere. So anyways, the next thing you need are wipes. Cats do a lot of things where they're not supposed to or where you would not like them to do. For example, maybe they will put their feet somewhere where they see water spilled, or like in the sink once you've used it and there's still some water, and then they'll walk around the house and then you'll have their little footprints, and especially if they have litter on it and that gets muddy, like you'll just get dirt sometimes. Sometimes cats just throw up, some more than others, but you will need to clean that up. Sometimes they will use the litter box and they'll have some poops on their paws, and they hate being dirty, so they will be trying to scratch it off wherever they can, and that might be your wall. So it's good to have wipes on hand, not baby wipes, just the regular sanitizing wipes to clean up those messes. You will really see how useful wipes are. Trust me, there are so many purposes for wipes when you have cats. The next thing you need is insurance. There is cat insurance. I use Lemonade. I'll put a link down below. I'm sure you get something and I'll get something, but more on that in the description box. But you do need insurance for the cats. Their vaccines can also be covered by insurance, if depending on the package you buy, if you need them to be vaccinated. And Lemonade insurance is pretty cheap. I pay around $15 a month, which I will get into when I discuss costs. You never know when something very scary and wrong can happen. I will just give an example personally that I ended up being, it was okay, but this could have been something I really needed the insurance with. So actually, I'll give two examples because something did happen to them. So the first thing that ended up being okay was one time I had made this cupcake, you know, those like microwave cupcakes that you just pour water into the powder, like this prepackaged one, right? And it was chocolate. I went away, I came back, and I found my guy Zuko over there. He's sitting at the window now, but he had eaten everything that I had left in the cup. And cats can't eat chocolate. Chocolate is toxic to them. So I was so scared, so worried. If I had to get surgery, or if I had to take him into the ER, which I did call the cat hospital, if that was something I needed to do, then that would have cost a lot of money and you would have not had any help. So insurance is so vital. My other example was when something did happen to them. I had been fostering other cats as well when I had Coco and Zuko. So one of the kittens I was fostering developed ringworm, and then that transferred to Coco and Zuko. And unfortunately, if you're fostering and an issue spreads to your cats, not the foster cats, that's on you to cover. So I'm so thankful I had insurance because the medication was expensive, and you can vary the cost of your insurance, like how much you want to pay deductible, and that'll change your cost monthly, or if you want to pay more monthly but less deductible, like, you know, you can just figure that out. But it's not that expensive. If anything, like, really, if you take anything away from this, I hope that you get insurance because you never know. Okay, we're almost at the end of the essentials, and I know this is like a long list, but I'm trying to be comprehensive, so this is truly like the guide, I hope. But you will also need a scratcher, so I don't have one right now actually, so I'm like kind of going against my own word. But you need a scratcher because cats need to scratch. They have an instinct to sharpen their nails, and if it's not on a scratcher, it will be on your furniture or your rug, or maybe even your clothes, or God forbid you, but it will be somewhere. They need to get the dead parts off their nails. They need to sharpen it. They have to scratch. So you should get a scratcher. You can get just the single kinds of scratchers, or you can get them like this whole like cat tree thing, which includes scratchers within them. But if you want to just go for the basic, the very essential, it's the scratchers. Second to last essential are toys. Now I know you think toys are like a plaything, but cats do need toys to get their energy out on, their aggression out on. It builds on them naturally. So if you don't want them to be attacking you midday, you should give them something else to attack so that they can get that energy out. It's not their fault. They're not trying to be aggressive, but they have this hormone and need. They are hunters, they're predators. They're not domesticated animals, even though that's how we're treating them. So you have to give them an outlet. So for that, I suggest two toys. One is a flying toy. It's like a something hanging on a stick, and you just whirl it around, and they think it's like a real bird or a real whatever it is, and they love it. They love it. It gets all of their energy out. My cats are never aggressive with me when I have been playing with them. That's very necessary. But on the other hand, cats also love to grab onto things and like kick things sometimes, and you don't want that to be your foot or something like that. So it's much better to have a little kicker toy. You can Google them, but it's a flying toy and a kicker toy. Those are needs. The last essential is vaccines. Kittens especially need vaccines, but all cats need vaccines. I would strongly recommend getting a insurance plan that covers their vaccinations or includes that within the deductibles or something like that. But I know like PetSmart does their own plan, and like other vets do their own plans, I'm sure. Okay, now I'm moving on to some loves. These are things you don't need, they're not essential, but I think that you would benefit a lot from them, or your cat would benefit a lot from them. So to start off, it is the litter genie. It's like a trash can for cat poop. It is something I love because I don't have to take my cat. I don't have, when I clean the litter box every day, I don't have to take it out to the trash every day or like make a new bag for them, or like, you know, dirty the trash can by putting it in and then like it stinks it up. Like it's vacuum sealed, so when you put the poop or litter in, it goes down, there's a vacuum seal shut, there's no smell. You don't have to take the trash out like daily, which I really think you should if you don't have a litter genie, but just makes life so easy. I really 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 like, it's my number one you should get if you want something, but that's just my opinion. The next thing is, I said that you should get treats in my essentials, but in my loves, I would recommend getting multiple kinds of treats. So, for example, if you're trying to get your cat comfortable with the carrier, I would save a specific kind of treat for when that cat is in the carrier so it can start associating the carrier with something positive. And I don't want them to confuse, like, oh, you know, I get this treat at random times. No, I want them to think, I get this treat in this carrier, so I like being in the carrier. If they get that same treat elsewhere, then maybe they won't think like, oh, the carrier is where I get the treats, that's where it's at. No, you want them to think that. So to form positive associations for different things, I would recommend different treats. The third thing I recommend that's not an essential is a cat bed or cat blanket or something for them to lay on. They love to lay on things, but I would say that not necessarily for comfort, but for them to get their scent onto something, and then you can take that around when you're going to a new place, and they won't feel so scared because they will have their scent all over that place already on that blanket or whatever. The next thing I recommend, which is just fun, is a clicker. You can Google this online, but it's just like a little click. It's something you click, and there's a specific noise that comes out of it. And I recommend that for training your cat. There's so many videos on clicker training your cat. I really recommend it. It stimulates their brain. It's really fun. It impresses people. Cats are really smart. They like to be trained. If you can train them, they will pick up quickly if you have the patience. So I really recommend it. It's just a lot of fun. The next thing I recommend is wet wipes / baby wipes. Sometimes when the cats have like diarrhea, if they have diarrhea, like they're not the best at cleaning it afterwards because they do clean their butthole. I'm kind of gonna get a little bit TMI or like gross-ish, but they do clean their buttholes, like they lick their buttholes. But sometimes I have seen them with a little bit of like gunk there. I don't like it. It's not a big deal because I know they'll clean it up. If you don't think it's a big deal, it's fine. I don't like it. I don't want them to sit with me because they do. They're always on me, except for right now because they're like sitting away suspiciously. They don't know what's going on, but I just don't want them to get on my clothes. And from the point of view of being a Muslim, you can't pray in clothes that have something dirty on it. So if I ever feel like that, baby wipes are a cat safe as well. So I just wipe it clean. It takes like 1 second. I just had it. Coco, come here, buddy. Yeah, come here. Come here, buddy. Where were you? Where were you? Okay, I feel like I should do the rest of the video like this. This is my cat Coco, by the way. She's with me. She's in my lap now. But anywho, the next thing I would recommend, but it's not an essential, is a cat fountain, a water fountain. Cats love running water. They don't tend to drink from still water, so if there's a water in a bowl, it's kind of hard for them to feel like they want to drink it. And if you're giving them wet food, that's not really a big deal because wet food gives them, I think it's like 70% of their required water intake per day. It's not a huge deal if they don't drink a lot of water from the bowls, but if you're giving them dry food, they need a lot of water, and you need to be making sure they get that in. Water fountains, they just love water fountains. They're drawn to it. They might be a little bit scared at first because my cats were, but then they loved drinking from it. They did drink from it a lot more than they drink from bowls. The downside to water fountains though is that you have to change the filters out, so you do have to pay overtime. Whereas in the bowls, you just clean it yourself. There's no need to change the filter because there is no filter. So that's why it's a recommend and not a must. Two other optional things are collars and cat windows. So cat windows is like if you have a window, if you can attach like those, you can find them on Amazon shelves for the cats to sit on. They love that. No, it's not a big deal. But again, with same thing with the collar. Like if you want to, and if you think they're outside cats, I would give them a collar. But as you can see from my little buddy here, no collar, and they actually don't like a collar. I'm sure they'll get used to it if you have it on them for a while, but I do not. I never did really, even though I did make a custom made collar for them. I did order one when I first adopted them, and they just never ended up wearing it because first it was way too big for them when they were kittens, and when they got to the size, like I just realized they're never out of the house, and they are microchipped. So it's something I'm still considering. If you want to, go ahead, but I'm just putting it here because I don't think it's a must. The next thing I would recommend is having a motion detecting air spray. I don't like my cats to jump on the counters, but if I'm the one who's constantly yelling at them or hitting them or something, like when they're up there, they will start to associate me with something negative. So to avoid that, I got this air spray, and I think this also might have been a Jackson Galaxy recommendation, but I got this air spray. I can link it down below if anyone is interested, but it's like motion detecting, so if it senses something in front of it, it'll spray this burst of air. It doesn't hurt them, but it scares them, and they jump off the counter and then they don't come back, which is my goal without them feeling triggered by me yelling at them. So I would really, really, really strongly recommend that. The final thing I would recommend is a brush. So cats do shed a lot, and I actually wore this black to show you. I don't know if it's picking up now, but I might get closer at the end. But cats shed a lot. Their fur gets on everything. It's really good to have a brush to brush it out. This is put into the recommends and not needs because my cats are short hairs, so they don't really need a brushing. It's just an additional thing I do to get their hair out. Recently, I have been trying out this kind of brush. It has these metal ends, and it's supposed to kind of like pick up and collect dead hair or hair that's about to fall off. I have been doing it. I have been getting a lot of hair. I am not sure if it's helped with shedding. I'm not sure, but they like to be brushed. It's a nice little bonding activity. I would recommend it. Not a need though, unless you have a long-haired cat. Now that all of that is done, I will tell you about the cost of having a cat. Basically, four types of things or costs that you could have in a month. Like these are the basic costs that you can/will have every month. So those four things are insurance, which is around $15 a month. Your cat food, if it's wet food, could be like $50, $65 a month. If it's dry food, it could probably be half of that. Litter, you probably will need at least one bag/box a month. That's probably another $15 we'll put in. I really strongly recommend flea medicine initially. Your vets will recommend it. It is something they need to get on a monthly basis to stay effective against fleas, but now that I have had these guys for a long time, I have stopped giving them flea medicine because I know they don't go outside. They don't need to go outside, so there's no chance of them getting fleas. But if there is any way your cat is seeing other animals or is an outdoor cat, then you should get them flea medicine. And that is also it's like $15 to $20 a month, I believe. So putting all of those costs together, like if you went with the wet food and then you got all of the other three things, that would probably be at the most around $100 a month. And I know that's kind of like a big number and it's scary, and I'm not gonna lie, it is like a lot of money, especially if you're a student or someone who's young and you're not earning that much. It is a lot of money, but I will say you can save on these costs although I don't recommend not doing these things. You don't need to get insurance and you don't need to get flea medicine if you are in a situation kind of like mine. I still strongly recommend the insurance. I don't want to say that enough, but if you are struggling 1 month and that's maybe like that's the breaking point for you, I wouldn't say you're so like you're terrible for not getting them insurance for that month. So if you did that and if you got the dry food instead of the wet food, then the cost would be like $45. So it would just be the food, the litter, that's it. That means that the cost for your cat can vary from around $40 to $100 a month. It is costly. I'm not going to pretend like there's no cost. And I feel like people don't really talk about that. But if that's something you're considering, just be aware of it. Try to budget it into your monthly goals or your yearly planner or whatever you want to do. But just be aware of it. And this does not include the cost of vaccinations. The final two things I'll talk about now are some tips just generally and then talk about my experience as well. So the first tip that I'll give you is watch Jackson Galaxy on YouTube. I've mentioned him already. I learned so much from him. He is so knowledgeable about cats. He probably has made a video on like every cat question you have. Just watch him. You will learn so much. You don't need to read books if you're not that kind of person. I still read the books anyways. Not by him, just like like Cat for Dummies. Just like I literally did read a Cat for Dummies book, but you don't have to do that. You can just watch him and you would probably be good. The next thing I would recommend, like a tip, is to understand what the type, like the way the cat's tail is. Understand what that means because it tells you a lot. Like if you are going to pet your cat and you see they start like swirling their tail, that means they're kind of agitated and annoyed. If they start doing it fast, they're kind of annoyed and upset and they might pounce on you. So just keep that in mind. If their tail is up and happy, they're happy, like little question mark like that. That's so cute. They're good. It just says a lot. They can't communicate with you verbally. Like they're not gonna tell you, "Don't touch me. I'm really annoyed right now," but you can figure it out. So it's just a good gauge on them. The next thing is that like I kind of was mentioning this throughout, but you want to start them off on good habits at a young age. So conversely, you want to break bad habits at a young age too. So if you want to build a habit of having them get their nails cut at home, you want to start that habit when they're young, because the older cats get, the harder it is. You know, like the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. This boy, actually, I'll give you a demo. This guy right here, he hated getting his nails cut. Now, let's see how he acts today. So he does need to get his nails cut, actually. Good boy! He's so good, see? And that was something I needed to develop with him because he was really scared. He would scratch, he would bite, he was not happy. But slowly, and because I introduced this to him as a kitten, he got used to it over time, and now we're good. Like you can see, we're good. So introduce habits like that, brushing their teeth, getting them combed, like habits you think are necessary for them to be okay with. Introduce that at a young age. Kind of on a similar vein, give them positive reinforcements. Cats respond to positive reinforcements and not really that well to negative reinforcements. So the way I got him adjusted to his cutting his nails was I would give him a treat after every nail. I would pet him so much when he would do that. And then once he got used to that, I kind of like started giving him less treats and I started treating it like a more normal thing. So I would give it to them once we were done with one hand, and then once we were done totally, I would give him a treat. And same with brushing their teeth. Like I would give them a treat every time we finished brushing their teeth, but I would give them like the greenies treat, which is actually like good for their teeth. So like that's what I was saying about having separate treats for separate things. The next tip I have is like just train them. They love it. It's so fun to see your cat do things. Like it's really fun, honestly. There's no harm in it. I would really recommend training them. The next tip is to do your research on things that are toxic to cats. Know what they can't have / eat. Like for example, there are types of like air sprays that are oil based. You can't get that. You can Google this like on your own, but like you can't get that because they lick their furs, it gets on their furs, the chemicals go inside them. You don't want that. Or like I said, there are things they can't eat, like chocolate. I was telling my story about chocolate. No, that's a no. So know the things that are toxic to them. The next tip is to like I was kind of mentioning this, is to play with them and to get their energy out so that they can have a good outlet for it. They do sleep a lot and then they have to burn it off. If it's not with you playing with them, it will be with you, probably on you. So do that. My last tip is just to love them and be patient. Cats are really like people say have these like stereotypes about cats being cold and unfriendly and independent. Cats love to be loved. My cats sit with me all the time. Like it is hard to get them off my lap when I'm home. They love to be pet, they love to be cared for. Just love them a lot. They really like they will love you back. And to conclude like with my experience, I have loved having them in my life. Sometimes they have made me very upset, especially if they do like an angry poop on my bed. That's been very upsetting. Or like if the first time they had zoomies, I think I remember I was like, what is going on? Like it was just sometimes they're so fun and sometimes they're a little less fun, but overall like they're just a companion and a support system. And I miss them when I'm away from home so much. Like even for a day, I'm like thinking about them and missing them. Like they really do just change the way your home feels. And I don't want to be like super cheesy, but they make a house feel like a home, even if you're living alone, because then you have someone who's always there caring for you. Like you walk in the door and they're waiting there because they can hear you coming up. They'll be sitting at the door like ready for you to come in. Like some things are very annoying, like when they meow early in the morning, I'm not gonna lie, but in the long run, I think it's worth it. So that was my like really long-winded and hopefully comprehensive guide to new cat owners or prospective cat owners. I hope it's helpful. If you have any specific questions, let me know in the comments and I will try to answer. But just enjoy your cat. Take lots of videos, send them to me. Love them, but that's it.